They tore my clothes off in front of everyone, calling me a gold digger who didn't deserve their son. My mother-in-law laughed as I stood there, humiliated and broken. But what they didn't know? My father was watching everything, and he was about to show them who I really was. Stay until the very end, because the revenge my father delivered will leave you speechless. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Now let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Mia, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones who hurt you the most. And sometimes justice comes in ways you never expected. I was just a simple girl from a small town when I met Adrian. We were both in university studying business. He was charming, kind, and made me laugh in ways no one ever had. I fell for him hard and fast. Within a year, we were married in a small ceremony. It was perfect. Or so I thought. Adrian came from money. The Whitmore family was old wealth, the kind that came with expectations and judgment. But I didn't care about any of that. I loved Adrian for who he was, not what he had. What his family didn't know, what Adrian didn't know, was that I came from money too. Real money. The kind that makes the Whitmores look like they're playing dress-up. My father, William Sterling, is a self-made billionaire. He built an empire from nothing, and I grew up in a world of private jets and endless possibilities. But I watched how people treated my father, how they smiled to his face while calculating what they could get from him. I saw how every friendship, every relationship came with a price tag attached. So when I turned 18, I made a decision. I changed my last name, moved away, and lived modestly. I wanted to find love that was real. Love that had nothing to do with bank accounts or business deals. My father understood. He's always respected my choices, even when they worried him. But he also made me promise one thing. If I ever needed him, truly needed him, I would call. I promised. And for 2 years, I kept that promise locked away, determined to make my marriage work on my own terms. Adrian's family made that nearly impossible from day one. His mother, Clarissa, looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her designer shoe. She never missed an opportunity to remind me that I didn't belong, that I wasn't good enough for her son. She'd make me serve tea to her friends, introduce me as the girl Adrian married, never by name. She'd critique my clothes, my hair, the way I spoke. Nothing I did was ever right. Adrian's father, Vincent, simply ignored me. I could walk into a room and he'd look right through me like I was invisible. Maybe that was worse than Clarissa's active cruelty. At least she acknowledged my existence, even if it was just to tear me down. And then there was Natalie, Adrian's younger sister. She was perhaps the worst of all because she smiled while she stabbed. She'd compliment my dress, then whisper to her friends that it looked cheap. She'd invite me to lunch, then spend the whole time talking about how Adrian could have married anyone, how many beautiful, wealthy girls had wanted him. The constant message was clear. I was lucky to be there, and I should be grateful they even tolerated me. But I tried. God, I tried so hard. I thought if I was patient enough, kind enough, eventually they'd see me for who I was. I thought love would be enough. Adrian would tell me not to worry about it, that his family would come around, but he never stood up for me. Not once. He'd just tell me to try harder, to understand that this was how they were. 2 years passed like this. 2 years of swallowing my pride, of accepting disrespect, of pretending that everything was fine. And then came our second anniversary. Clarissa insisted on throwing us an anniversary party. Not for us, of course, for her. To show off to her society friends, to prove that her son had the perfect life, even if his wife was, in her words, unfortunate. I wanted to say no, but Adrian convinced me. Maybe this is her way of accepting you, he said. I should have known better. The party was at the Whitmore estate, and Clarissa had spared no expense. When I arrived that evening, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Crystal chandeliers hung everywhere, each one probably worth more than most people's houses. A live orchestra played classical music in the corner. Champagne fountains bubbled with expensive bottles I couldn't even pronounce. There were ice sculptures, towers of imported flowers, and a red carpet leading to the entrance where photographers waited. Over 200 people were invited, not friends, not family, but business tycoons, celebrities, politicians, anyone who mattered in high society. Women dripped in diamonds and designer gowns that cost more than cars. Men wore custom suits and watches that could fund a child's college education. Luxury cars lined up for miles, being handled by a team of valets. And there I was, in my simple cream-colored dress that I'd bought on sale. I'd thought it was pretty when I picked it out. Now, standing among all this excess, I felt like a fool. I could feel their eyes on me, hear the whispers. That's her? That's what Adrian settled for? Poor thing, she looks so out of place. Clarissa found me within minutes, her smile sharp as glass. "Oh, Mia, you came. How quaint you look." Natalie giggled beside her, radiant in a silver gown that probably cost more than I'd spent on clothes in my entire life. "We're so glad you could make it to your own party," she said sweetly, the insult buried in fake kindness. Adrian was immediately swept away by his father, talking business with important men. I stood alone, trying to make myself invisible, counting the hours until this nightmare would end. I had no idea that it was about to get so much worse. The party was in full swing when it happened. The orchestra had just finished a song, and Clarissa took the microphone for a toast. She was thanking everyone for coming, saying something about family and love that made me want to laugh at the irony. And then her expression changed. Her hand flew to her neck. "My necklace," she gasped. "My pink diamond necklace. It's gone." The room went silent. 200 people stopped talking, drinking, eating. All eyes turned to Clarissa as she clutched her bare neck dramatically. "Someone has stolen my necklace," she announced, her voice rising. "The pink diamond. It's worth $2 million, and it was right here an hour ago." My stomach dropped. I knew what was coming before she even said it. I could see it in her eyes as they locked onto mine across the room. "Mia." She said my name like an accusation. "You were in my dressing room earlier. I saw you." 200 pairs of eyes turned to me. I felt like I was drowning. I was just looking for the bathroom," I stammered. "I didn't take anything. I swear." "She's lying," Natalie chimed in, appearing at her mother's side. "I saw her too." She was definitely near Mother's jewelry case. She looked suspicious. "This is ridiculous," I said, my voice shaking. "Why would I steal from you? I don't want your necklace." "Don't you?" Clarissa's voice was cold. "Everyone knows you married my son for money. You've been after our wealth from the beginning. This is just proof of what you really are, a common thief." The room erupted in whispers. Phones came out. People were recording. I looked desperately for Adrian, found him standing with his father. "Adrian, please, tell them I wouldn't do this." He looked at me, and for a moment I thought he'd defend me. Then he looked at his mother, at his father, at all the important people watching, and he said nothing. Vincent stepped forward. "Search her. Right now, in front of everyone. If she's innocent, she has nothing to hide." "You can't be serious," I whispered. But I could see from their faces that they were deadly serious. Clarissa and Natalie advanced on me like predators. I backed away, but there was nowhere to go. 200 people formed a circle around us, phones held high, recording every second of my humiliation. What happened next will haunt me for the rest of my life. Clarissa grabbed my arm, her perfectly manicured nails digging into my skin. "If you won't cooperate, we'll do this the hard way." "Please," I begged. "Please don't do this." I didn't take anything. Please. But they didn't care about my pleas. Natalie grabbed my other arm, and together they started pulling at my dress. I fought back, trying to protect myself, but there were two of them, and I was already shaking so badly I could barely stand. The zipper of my dress came down. I screamed, trying to hold the fabric to my body, but Clarissa yanked it roughly. The dress fell to my feet, and I stood there in the middle of that grand ballroom in just my undergarments, under the spotlight that had been meant for celebration. 200 people watched, 200 phones recorded. The orchestra had stopped playing. There was no sound except my sobbing and the clicking of camera phones capturing my destruction. Clarissa picked up my dress and searched through it violently, tearing the pockets, shaking it out. "Nothing," she announced, "but that doesn't mean she didn't hide it somewhere else." "This is insane," I cried, wrapping my arms around myself. "I didn't take your necklace." "Get her out of here," Vincent ordered the security guards. "Remove this thief from our property." Two large men in suits approached me. I looked one more time at Adrian, silently begging him to do something, anything. He stood frozen, his face pale, but he didn't move. He didn't say a word. He just turned his back on me and walked away. That moment broke something inside me. Not the humiliation, not the false accusations, but watching the man I loved choose his family's approval over my dignity. The guards grabbed me by the arms and dragged me through the crowd. The people parted like I was diseased. Some spit insults at me. "Gold digger," "thief," "trash." I heard it all as they pulled me through that mansion, down the marble stairs, past the chandeliers and flowers and all that expensive beauty that hid such ugliness underneath. They threw me out the front gates and locked them behind me. I collapsed on the cold ground outside, shivering in my undergarments, my entire body shaking with sobs. Inside, the party continued. I could hear the music starting again, hear the laughter. They'd already moved on. My humiliation was just entertainment for them, a story they'd tell at their next gathering. A young valet, barely 20, saw me and rushed over with his jacket. He draped it over my shoulders without saying a word, his eyes kind. That small act of kindness from a stranger made me cry even harder. I sat there on the cold ground, wrapped in a stranger's jacket, and realized I had nothing left. No dignity, no husband, no home I could return to. My phone was still in my purse inside. I had nothing, except one thing, one promise I'd made to my father 2 years ago. I borrowed the valet's phone with shaking hands and dialed the number I knew by heart. It rang twice before his familiar voice answered. "Dad?" My voice broke on the word. "Dad, I need you. I need you right now. Where are you, baby girl?" My father's voice was immediately alert, concerned. I could hear him moving, could hear the urgency in his tone. Through tears, I told him everything. Where I was, what had happened, how they'd stripped me in front of everyone. I told him about the false accusations, about Adrian's silence, about being thrown out like garbage. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end. Then my father spoke, and his voice was something I'd never heard before, cold, controlled, furious. "Don't move," he said. "I'm coming." "And Mia? They have no idea what's about to hit them." He hung up. The valet stayed with me, offering silent support. "Your father?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "He'll be here soon." 15 minutes later, the night exploded with light and sound. First came the cars. 10 black luxury SUVs and limousines rolled up to the Whitmore estate like a presidential motorcade. Then came a helicopter, its spotlight illuminating the entire property like daytime. The party inside stopped again. I could see people rushing to the windows, pointing, wondering what was happening. The center limousine door opened, and my father stepped out. William Sterling doesn't just enter a space, he commands it. At 60, he's still imposing, tall and broad-shouldered, with silver hair and eyes that can freeze you with a look. He wore a suit that probably cost more than the Whitmores spent on this entire party, and his presence was so powerful that even from outside the gates, I could feel it. Behind him came 20 security personnel, all in black suits, moving with military precision. 5 lawyers in expensive suits carried briefcases, and the city's police commissioner himself walked beside my father, looking official and serious. News helicopters started circling overhead. Someone had tipped off the media. Later, I'd find out that someone was my father, who'd made sure every news station in the city knew something big was about to happen at the Whitmore estate. The gates opened. The guards who'd thrown me out now stepped back, recognizing power when they saw it. My father walked straight to me, and the cold fury in his eyes melted into concern as he looked at me sitting there, still in my undergarments and the borrowed jacket. He took off his $50,000 coat and wrapped it around me himself, then lifted me to my feet. "I'm here now, baby girl," he said softly. Then he turned to face the mansion, and his voice carried like thunder. "Which one of you touched my daughter?" Inside the mansion, through the open doors, I could see the party had become chaos. Everyone was trying to see what was happening. Clarissa appeared at the entrance, Vincent beside her, both looking confused and annoyed at the interruption. "What is the meaning of this?" Vincent demanded. "This is a private party." "You're trespassing." My father smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Am I? Let's go inside and discuss that, shall we? I think your guests will want to hear what I have to say." He walked forward, and the crowd parted before him like water. I walked beside him, wrapped in his coat, feeling safer than I had in 2 years. His security fanned out around us. The lawyers followed. The police commissioner stayed close. We walked through that mansion like we owned it, because, as it turned out, we did. My father took the microphone from a stunned Clarissa. 200 wealthy, powerful people stared at him, trying to figure out who he was. Some of the older ones were starting to recognize him. I could see the realization dawning on their faces. "Good evening," my father said, his voice calm and controlled. "Let me introduce myself properly. My name is William Sterling. Perhaps some of you have heard of me? Sterling Global Empire? 50 billion in assets? Yes, I can see some of you recognize the name now." The room erupted in whispers. Everyone knew Sterling Global. It was one of the largest conglomerates in the world, with holdings in everything from technology to real estate to banking. "This woman you just humiliated," my father continued, pulling me close to his side. "This woman you stripped and degraded in front of 200 people. This woman you called a thief and a gold digger. She's my daughter. My only child, my heir." The gasps were audible. Clarissa's face went white. Vincent looked like he might faint. Adrian stood frozen in the crowd, his mouth open in shock. "Mia came from more wealth than any of you will ever see," my father said, "but she wanted something money can't buy. She wanted to be loved for who she is, not what she has. So she changed her name, lived modestly, and found herself a man she thought would cherish her. Instead, she found you people." He snapped his fingers, and the large screens that had been showing happy photos of Adrian and me flickered to life with new content. Family photos appeared, me as a child on a yacht, me at our estate, me at charity galas standing beside my father, official documents showing my real identity, birth certificates, trust fund papers, everything proving exactly who I was. The crowd was silent now, watching the evidence of my real life play out on screen. I could see people's expressions changing from curiosity to shock to horror as they realized what they'd witnessed tonight. They'd just watched a billionaire's daughter be stripped and humiliated, and they'd recorded it, laughed at it, participated in it. "Now," my father said, his voice dropping to something cold and dangerous, "let's talk about what happens next." My father turned to his security team. "Show them," he ordered. The screens changed again. This time, they showed security footage from inside the mansion. I didn't know where these cameras had come from, but later I'd learn my father had them installed months ago. He'd been watching, waiting, protecting me from afar, even when I didn't know it. The first video showed Natalie entering Clarissa's dressing room hours before the party started. She looked around nervously, then went straight to her mother's jewelry box. Her own mother's jewelry box. She opened it, pulled out the pink diamond necklace, and slipped it into her purse. The second video showed her in the garden, hiding the necklace under a rosebush. The third video was the most damning. It showed Clarissa and Natalie together in a private room, talking. The audio was crystal clear. "Are you sure about this?" Natalie's voice came through the speakers. "Positive," Clarissa responded. "We'll accuse her of stealing the necklace. Search her in front of everyone, humiliate her so badly that Adrian will have no choice but to divorce her. We'll finally be rid of that little leech." 200 people watched in absolute silence as the conspiracy unfolded on screen. They watched Natalie steal the necklace. They watched the two women plot my destruction. They watched everything. When the videos ended, my father turned to face Clarissa and Natalie. Would you like to explain this? He asked quietly. Natalie crumpled to the floor, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It was Mother's idea. You lying little... Clarissa started, then stopped as she realized everyone was staring at her. The phones that had recorded my humiliation were now recording hers. The news helicopters outside were broadcasting this to the entire city. In a matter of hours, this would be international news. Mr. Sterling, Vincent stepped forward trying to salvage something. Perhaps we can discuss this privately. I'm sure we can reach some arrangement. Arrangement? My father's laugh was cold. Oh, Vincent. We're way past arrangements. You see, when Mia married your son, I did what any good father would do. I investigated your family, your business, your assets, and I found something very interesting. He nodded to his lawyers, who began pulling up documents on the screens. The Whitmore estate? This beautiful mansion we're standing in? It's mortgaged through Sterling Bank. I bought that mortgage 6 months ago. You're living in my property. Vincent's face went gray. Whitmore Enterprises? Your company, Vincent? I've been quietly buying up shares through various shell companies. As of today, I own 68%. I'm the majority shareholder. You work for me now. The screens showed stock certificates, purchase agreements, all bearing my father's signature. Your family trust fund, Clarissa? The one you use to fund your shopping trips and parties? It's managed by Sterling Financial Services. I froze it 10 minutes ago. Clarissa made a strangled sound. And Natalie. My father turned to her, still crying on the floor. Those lovely boutiques you're so proud of? They're built on properties owned by Sterling Real Estate Holdings. Your leases are terminated, effective at midnight tonight. This can't be legal, Vincent shouted. You can't just... I can, and I did, my father interrupted. Everything by the book, all legal, all documented. You see, gentlemen, I didn't build a $50 billion empire by being stupid. I built it by being thorough. When you threaten what I love, I don't get angry. I get systematic. He turned to face the crowd, addressing all 200 people who'd watched my humiliation. Let this be a lesson to everyone here. That woman you laughed at? That woman you called a gold digger? She has more wealth, more class, and more integrity than all of you combined. She chose to live modestly to find real love. Instead, she found you people, snakes in expensive clothes. The room was deathly silent. The Whitmore family has lost everything tonight. Their home, their business, their wealth, their reputation. And it's all their own fault. They could have treated my daughter with basic human decency. Instead, they chose cruelty. They chose humiliation. They stripped her in front of you all, and not one of you stood up to stop it. I could see shame on some faces. Others looked away, unable to meet his eyes. My father gestured to the police commissioner. Now, unless you want me to press charges for assault, theft, conspiracy, and fraud, I suggest the Whitmore family start packing. You have 30 days to vacate my property. Please. Clarissa was on her knees now, her designer gown pooling around her. Please, Mr. Sterling. We didn't know. We'll apologize. We'll make it right. Please don't do this. My father looked down at her with contempt. Did you show mercy when you stripped my daughter? Did you listen when she begged you to stop? You made your choices, now live with the consequences. Adrian finally pushed through the crowd. His face was desperate, panicked. He rushed to me, trying to grab my hands. Mia! Mia, please, you have to help us. Tell your father to stop. I love you. You know I love you. I looked at him. This man I'd loved for 2 years. This man I'd married, built a life with, defended endlessly to myself even when he never defended me. Do you, Adrian? I asked quietly. Do you love me? Yes, of course I do. Please, you have to believe me. Then why didn't you stop them? My voice was steady now, clear. Why didn't you say one word when they accused me? When they stripped me? When they threw me out? You stood there, silent. You turned your back and walked away. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. You knew exactly what to do, I interrupted. You chose. You chose them over me. You chose their approval over my dignity. You chose to be a coward. Mia, please. I'm filing for divorce, I said. The words came out easier than I expected. Tomorrow. And I'm taking nothing from you, Adrian. No money, no property, nothing. Because I never needed your wealth. I just needed you to stand beside me. And you couldn't even do that. You can't mean that. We can work through this. The saddest part, I continued, isn't what your family did to me. It's that you let them. Every insult, every humiliation, every cruel word over the past 2 years, and you just told me to try harder, to be patient, to understand. You never once told them to stop. You never once protected me. That's not love, Adrian. That's convenience. He was crying now, genuine tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do better. I'll change. Just please don't leave me. I stepped back, closer to my father. I already left you. The moment you turned your back on me tonight, you lost me forever. My father's lawyers stepped forward, papers in hand. Divorce papers, Mrs. Whitmore. Or should I say Miss Sterling? They're ready for your signature. I took the pen and signed without hesitation. 2 years of marriage. Ended with a signature. Adrian collapsed to his knees, but I felt nothing but relief. 6 months passed. The Whitmores lost everything, exactly as my father promised. Their estate was seized and auctioned. Vincent's company went bankrupt within 3 months. Clarissa, who'd never worked a day in her life, now worked as a sales associate at a department store. Natalie's boutiques were closed, and she worked retail at a mall. Adrian lost his luxury car dealership and worked a regular sales job. Their high society friends abandoned them immediately. That's the thing about people like that. They're only your friends when you have something they want. As for me, I went back to being who I really was. Mia Sterling, Vice President of Sterling Global Empire. I worked alongside my father, learned the business from the inside, and discovered I was actually good at it. I started a foundation for women escaping toxic relationships, helping them find the strength to leave and the resources to rebuild. I bought my own penthouse with money I earned myself. I traveled, made real friends, and slowly healed from the trauma of that night. One evening, 6 months after everything happened, I was hosting a charity gala for my foundation. It was a beautiful event, full of people who genuinely cared about helping others. As I was greeting guests, I noticed one of the coat check attendants looked familiar. It was Clarissa. Our eyes met across the room. She looked so different. Older, tired, humbled. Gone was the arrogance, the cruelty, the superiority. She looked like what she was, a woman who'd lost everything because of her own choices. She approached me slowly, hesitantly. "Mia," she said softly, I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I know it means nothing now, but I truly am sorry." I looked at her for a long moment. 6 months ago, I would have felt satisfaction at seeing her like this. Now, I just felt tired. "I forgive you, Clarissa," I said. The words surprised even me, but I meant them. Not for you. For me. So I can let go and move forward. She started crying. "Thank you. Thank you so much." "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting," I continued. "What you did to me, what your family did, taught me something important. Family isn't always blood. It's who stands beside you when everything falls apart. My father showed me what real love looks like. Protection, loyalty, strength. Your son couldn't give me any of those things." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I understand. I hope you find happiness, Mia. Real happiness. You deserve it." I watched her walk away, back to her coat check station, and felt something lift from my shoulders. I'd carried that anger, that hurt for so long. Letting it go felt like breathing for the first time in months. My father found me a few minutes later. "You okay, baby girl?" "Yeah, Dad." I smiled up at him. "I really am." "Proud of you," he said, putting his arm around my shoulders, "for being the bigger person, for moving forward, for being strong." "I learned from the best," I replied. That night, as I looked around at all the people my foundation was helping, all the women finding their strength and reclaiming their lives, I realized something. The Whitmores thought they were punishing me by treating me like I was nothing. Instead, they freed me. They showed me exactly what I didn't want, helped me find my backbone, and pushed me toward the life I was always meant to have. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us are actually blessings in disguise. Sometimes we need to be broken down completely to rebuild ourselves stronger. I walked into that anniversary party 2 years ago as a woman trying to earn approval from people who would never give it. I walked out as someone who didn't need anyone's approval anymore. And that was the real revenge. Not my father's systematic destruction of their empire, though that was satisfying. The real revenge was me, thriving without them, happy without their validation, successful on my own terms. They thought they were stripping me of my dignity that night. Instead, they stripped away the last illusion I had about who they were. They did me a favor. I am Mia Sterling. I am my father's daughter. I am enough. I always was enough. And I will never let anyone make me feel less than that again. Sometimes people treat you badly because they think you're powerless. They never imagined that I didn't need to prove my worth. I always had it. My father taught me that real power isn't about money or revenge. It's about knowing your value and never letting anyone make you feel less than you are. That night, I walked into that party as a woman they thought they could break. I walked out as myself, stronger, wiser, and finally free. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to hear more true stories of justice and redemption. Share this with someone who needs to remember their worth today. Comment below and tell me, have you ever been underestimated by someone who later regretted it? I read every single comment. Remember, you are enough exactly as you are. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. Until next time, this is Mia, reminding you to never let anyone dim your light.